Welcome to the Yellowjackets Hive. I'm Media Melanie here with,
And I'm Emily.
and today we have another exclusive video for our partners at Cord Cutting. A friendly reminder, if you have not already bookmarked our Hive Hub page, please visit cordcutting.com/yellowjackets-hive and be sure to subscribe to Cord Cutting on YouTube. They are youtube.com/@cordcutting, and you can find lots of our exclusive content there. So be sure you're buzzing in, everybody.
It'll be a while before we get any new content, so go check it out to hold you over.
That's right. We are here for all of your Yellowjackets content needs as the hiatus continues and the strike continues. That's what we're here for. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yes.
And today's topic, we're going to be covering Misty and Walter as citizen detectives. We're going to talk about their relationship, some questions we have about them, and speculate a little bit on what's in store for this dynamic duo ahead of season 3. And something interesting, Walter was really only supposed to be cast for one season. We thought we were getting Elijah Wood for a singular season, single character arc. And I'm curious whether or not they decided to keep him for season 3 based on how well him and Misty hit it off, or
Yeah.
will we see him in season 3, or will he just fade off into the sunset? What are your thoughts on that, Emily?
I can't see him just disappearing. He knows too much now at this point. And I feel like for that reason they're going to want to keep him close, especially Misty, obviously Misty. And I think that they might end up like being in a relationship. At least that's what it looks like.
It sure does look like that. And speaking of which, we actually ran a Twitter poll and asked if Misty and Walter are Endgame. And interesting results here. 32% said yes, they are soulmates. 12% said no, just a fling. 44% said one will kill one of the other ones. And then 12% said we'll see. And I can't wait to see what unfolds between the two of them.
It brings me back to a line that Walter says when he first meets Misty on the boat, and he compares them to Sherlock and Moriarty. And that makes me think that maybe one of them will kill the other one, because that's what happened between Sherlock and Moriarty. And if they want to be true to that story, if they're using them as an example, then it might be going in that direction.
And we will continue speculating until one of them is dead. And if I had to guess on who does kill the other one, I would bet on Misty killing Walter. Just my
Oh
2
yeah,
cents.
100%, 100%.
All right. So in season 1, we garnered quite a bit about Misty and her role as a citizen detective. She had a lot of information about the adult Yellowjackets, including information such as
Callie's birth certificate, Shauna and Jeff's marriage license, which I thought was really weird because she probably wasn't at the wedding. I
right.
highly doubt she was there. She found out about Travis's other identity, found out where he lived, his driver's license, his new name. The things that she found out are things that you would expect like somebody who investigates people for a living to know, not just like your average everyday person.
That's right. More of, say, a fixer or private detective, someone like, say, Jessica Roberts,
Yeah.
who, of course, Misty ends up putting in her basement and ultimately killing. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But what we know about Walter, give us a couple Walter facts, Emily.
Well, we learned that he is rich. He doesn't work. He got a settlement because I think if I remember correctly, he said a brick fell on his head or something like
It
that.
was either a brick or some kind of heavy machine, like some kind of heavy thing from
Yeah.
fell off a building. Yeah, something heavy.
And he was awarded $6 million for that lawsuit. So he has not worked like a day in his life since that happened. And he sits in his really nice house making puzzles for fun, which I caught a little interesting tidbit on his computer screen when we see him making the puzzles. He actually has a file on his computer that where he takes a picture of every completed puzzle that he completes, and he saves it and keeps it for safekeeping.
Next level puzzle fanatic. We also know Walter likes musicals, of course, with
Yes,
the musical situation with the adult size, human sized Caligula as well. So that's another thing he and Misty have in common.
for sure.
And we also learned a little bit when they played the two truths and a lie game. Walter actually tells three truths, and Misty tells him he doesn't know how to play the game, which can't disagree. His
No.
game, he didn't even play by his rules.
No.
But it was funny. That whole car ride situation, I think, was funny. Them being together and, debating over the music and their shared love of musicals. So,
I loved that scene because in that scene, he tells her, like, I don't care that you're a yellow jacket. That doesn't bother me. That's not what I'm concerned about. And he essentially tells her that he doesn't care if she's killed someone, which makes me think that maybe he might have killed someone before we see him kill Kevin Tan.
that's right. I mean, they could both have a body count. We know for sure that Misty does, and it's definitely possible that Walter does too. He does not seem phased whatsoever with the fact that Misty is a closer, as he calls her. So
Yes.
that's a fun euphemism for killer, in my opinion. What I really love about the way they tell this citizen detective story is how they used Reddit as a device to really introduce Walter as a character. Before we even see him on screen, we hear his voice as a narration on the Reddit page, which they're both a part of. Um,
Mhm.
and of course, they're going back and forth about Adam Martin's death. They have that whole wild goose chases interaction, which is really funny. There's some commentary on Reddit about the Parsippany poisoner, which is ironic
Mhm.
that Misty's so into this true crime stuff, yet is actually probably the Parsippany poisoner. And lest we forget, Walter's handle on Reddit, putting the
Yes.
six in forensic, which is hilarious.
He he's clearly very smart too because when he goes to the nursing home initially to make the first contact that he makes with Misty, he leaves her a note, but he writes the note in invisible ink. Like who does that?
Next level citizen detectively there. Next level.
Yeah. And I had a feeling when I saw that paper and I saw that it was blank, that came to my head. Like he used invisible ink. They are not like your average everyday Joes. They are like into this for the long haul, this true crime genre that they're both obsessed with.
They sure are. And what's funny about the invisible ink is so Showtime had mailed out the episode pictures and clues for season 2 to some of the fandom. And I know our friend Kaylee actually
Yeah.
used like a black light to make sure there was no invisible ink detected on those sheets, which is really funny. And can you imagine if they had also incorporated invisible ink into this like immersive situation that they do with Reddit? I just think it's funny, and
That would have been
that
crazy.
that would have been crazy. Oh my God. I mean, we cannot put anything out of the realm of possibility when it comes to Yellowjackets, as we all know.
Yeah, and I mean, Yellowjackets has turned us all into citizen detectives because we're all trying to solve the mysteries of the show as we go along.
What would really be funny is if Misty and Walter did a podcast together about a true crime, kind of like Only Murders in the Building or something. That would be interesting. Side note, I'm going to digress for 1 second. There's a new show on Peacock called Based on a True Story, which is about murder, true crime, and a couple who endeavors doing a podcast with a serial killer. And I've
Okay.
watched the first episode. I love it, and I'll be covering it in a Watch This Wednesday coming up. But anyway, just a little show recommendation for you true crime podcast fans out there, which I feel like are also Walter and Misty.
That's the one with Kaylee Cuoco, right?
It sure is, from
Okay.
Flight Attendant and other shows. You got me the first episode, so highly recommend.
I'll have to check it out.
Yes. So, one of, I think, the biggest debates with the Misty Walter situation is, first of all, what's going to happen with them in terms of relationship, but also we keep asking ourselves the question, are they serial killers? And we've got a few reasons why we think they each have a body count and could be serial killers. As we mentioned, Walter had that conversation with Misty where he called her a closer. And we know that Misty's body count includes Jessica Roberts, who, of course, she held captive in her basement back in
Mhm.
season 1. In season 2, Misty did not directly kill Crystal, but she definitely played a role in her falling off of shit cliff. So
Yeah.
I would call that what's like the indirect homicide thing? The like not
Unintentional homicide,
yeah, or
maybe?
manslaughter or
Something like that.
whatever the term is, like not first degree, maybe like second degree or something. But
Aggravated murder, maybe?
Yes, something like that. But let's face it, if it wasn't for Misty, Crystal could potentially still be there. So
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a body count. And of course, Misty also had a really fun statistic in season one. Emily, shoot us the fact that we all loved from season one when they were disposing of Adam's body.
12% of all killers are caught buying cleaning supplies.
They sure
She would
are.
know that. She would know that.
She totally took charge during the
Oh yeah.
whole Adam's murder situation. She could not have been happier that they sought her help. And I mean, she stepped in, she knew exactly what to do, where to dispose of things. Although, let's face it, the body was recovered and now, Shauna was questioned for it. So
Yeah,
I don't know if she was 100% effective there,
that's
but
very true.
she definitely played that part. And it's a good thing the adult Yellowjackets had her in that situation. I mean,
Oh
she is a
yeah.
closer. She is a closer,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, MFQ knows how to close. And speaking of closing, Walter is somewhat familiar with that as well. Of course, we saw Walter in Lottie's compound in season 2 with Kevin Tan. And ultimately, what happens with Kevin Tan, Emily?
Walter gives him some poison hot chocolate and he drops dead within a matter of seconds. I was not expecting that at all. When he
No,
handed him the hot chocolate, it did cross my mind for like a second that something might happen, but I didn't expect Kevin Tan to die. I was expecting Saracusa to die, not Kevin Tan.
same. And the way that Walter nonchalantly just like casually shot him and whatnot
Yeah.
didn't seem like there was much remorse.
No.
And I mean, he seemed like he kind of planned it. So that would be premeditated.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely planned it. I have no doubt about that.
100%. And along with this situation, Misty and Walter work together with the whole questioning Randy situation on the boat, where Misty is feeding to Walter about what to do with Randy was hilarious when she says,
Yeah.
hit him. And then Walter grabs the power tool and gets Randy to talk. And it shows again, like Misty's driving the situation. She's in
Yeah.
charge. She's back there telling Walter what to do. And this
Yeah.
brings us to our next point of who's the superior citizen detective, right?
Mm,
Based on what we just discussed, I would say Misty. What would you say
yeah.
before we show the poll results, Emily? What are your thoughts?
I think she has a slight edge over him just because it seems like she's able to think quicker on her feet than he is in certain situations. And she's able to find a way out of it, whereas he might not be able to do that. So
Definitely.
I definitely think that she's superior. They're both really good. I mean, with Walter with the invisible ink and somehow like finding Lottie's cult because of a purchase at a vending machine at a motel in the middle of New Jersey. Those are things that a normal person wouldn't like just be able to get on their computer and find out. That takes some
Exceptional
serious
citizen
work. Yeah.
detectively.
Yeah.
Exceptional. And to that point, Twitter felt Misty was the superior citizen detective as well. As you said, she does have an edge over him, and 61% of people thought the same thing, whereas 26% thought Walter was the superior citizen detective, and 13% saw them as equals. So I think that's interesting, and I'm wondering if that will come into play with their relationship. Perhaps it will present some kind of a power struggle where that will
Yeah.
result in Misty ending up killing Walter in season 3. So I guess we'll see.
I could see it going down that road, like Misty finally finding her love and the person that cares about her and then having it end so tragically and her having to like kill him or something like that.
That's right. And we know that Walter is definitely Misty's type. I mean, from that first moment we're introduced to Walter in person in the nursing home, which by the way was a whole scheme that he set up that's not even his grandmother, etc. Look at the look on his face when he's looking over at Misty. Like, could it be any cuter? And I mean, meanwhile, Misty's, checking out his muscular calves. And I mean, she was like kind of getting all hot and bothered, just like it was kind of love at first sight.
She was so curious. So curious.
We know Misty's turn-ons. We know again the muscular calves, steamed clams, escalators. I don't think they've ridden an escalator together yet, but there's always
Knuckles.
time. Knuckles, that's right. That's right. But they look so cute together. Them eating the little breakfast at the cafe and when they did the side by side when they were in the motel rooms, there's just a lot of like
Oh my gosh.
endearing,
I love
cute
that.
moments. Like I
Yeah.
love them as a couple. I hope Elijah Wood sticks around for the entire 5 seasons. Of course, we'll see. The fact that he's probably getting another season, though, after them initially planning for one, is very
Yeah.
telling.
Yeah.
And Elijah Wood has just brought so much to this ensemble cast, which was
Mhm.
already strong to begin with.
He was a great
Cheers.
addition, and
Oh,
I would be happy to see him for longer than just season 3, but I'm not going to hold my breath that he'll be around forever because they definitely like to get us where it hurts with this show.
we really see this bond between Walter and Misty forming, throughout the entire second season. Aside from him being her type, we see some emotional moments too. When they find Natalie, and then also Walter really consoling Misty after Natalie died. It seemed like he
Yeah,
was more consoling to her than these adult Yellowjackets who she's known since high school.
yeah,
So I feel like that shows like the level of commitment with Walter, and the fandom really seemed to be back and forth. Like, is Walter a good guy? Is he a bad guy? For me, I think he proved himself as a Misty supporter by
oh,
the end
yeah,
of season 2, like 100%.
yeah, I agree, for sure.
And he might be a bad guy, but he's a good bad guy when it comes to Misty.
He's not a bad guy in the sense that he treats her unfairly, that's for sure. He treats her with respect and kindness.
He tells Misty he doesn't care if she's killed somebody. Like, that's true ride or die. And again, she's a closer. And all of these things are just so telling with Walter's personal values and beliefs as well. He's subliminally telling her, like, hey, look, like, I'm kind of a killer too. There's nothing to
Yeah,
be
like,
ashamed of here without actually saying it out loud. I mean, he's kind of saying it.
they're almost like Bonnie and Clyde.
They are. Again, will be interesting to see how they move forward in many ways in season 3. From their relationship as citizen detectives, what are they going to be investigating next?
Yeah,
Is the Saracusa thing going to be closed, or are they going to introduce some kind of new mystery? Because I feel like they have to be investigating something together as citizen
yeah.
detectives, right?
Unless they investigate who sent those postcards, because I am not convinced that was Jeff.
And that is definitely still a mystery at hand. And
Yeah,
I wonder if any of the adults will ever return to the crash site or to that area in some form. It's funny because we kind of thought that maybe they were going to be revisiting the site in season 2. When we saw
yeah,
some of the trailers, we see them, going to a place that was very clearly in the woods. I think that was not necessarily a red herring, but it got our juices flowing a little bit and thinking, geez, are they going back there? Does it have
yeah,
something to do with the postcards? As always, a lot more questions than we have answers. Lots of speculating to be done overall, but really, I think the biggest thing with Walter and Misty is the fate of their relationship. Are they endgame? Are they serial killers? What's next for them as citizen detectives? And I think we'd like to know what all of the fandom thinks about it. Are
yeah,
you 100% convinced that Walter is a good guy? Or do you think that there's still a chance that he might have some less than desirable motives? We would love you to chime in and
yeah,
share your thoughts on that on this video, because I think the most important thing about Yellowjackets is us all being together in this, speculating, especially because we've got so much time to kill.
yeah. It's fun to throw ideas around with everybody.
100%. And speaking of ideas, we've got a lot more exclusive content coming at you at our Cord Cutting Hive page and also at our Yellow Jackets Hive pages and profiles. So again, be sure you're bookmarking cordcutting.com/yellowjackets-hive. And do not sleep on subscribing to Cord Cutting on YouTube, because you do not want to miss a buzz of our exclusive content. We've got videos, we've got articles, and again, hopefully it's going to be enough to tide you over until season 3.
Yeah, we're trying, that's for sure.
Yes, we are. We appreciate you joining us for this episode. Again, please chime in with your thoughts on our favorite citizen detectives, where you think their relationship is going, if you think they're serial killers. We'd love to hear from you.
So, until we spill again.